the PSYSSA Health Psychology SIG AGM. Today we're really going to be going over what we've been doing over the past year and look forward to what the SIG will be doing within the next year. So I've started recording this meeting, and so it will be available on YouTube to those who missed it, because I've had a few requests to upload the meeting. So anyway, I'm Rizwana Rumani. I think most of you know who I am, and I've sort of been leading this group for the past year and a half. And I'm actually quite excited to do this AGM today with you, because I think that we've been working in little groups within the SIG and putting together our pack for the AGM. We kind of got to see just how much we've actually accomplished over the last year. And so I'm really proud of the team who've really put in quite a bit of work over the last few months to develop the SIG. So this is the outline of our meeting today. I'm going to do a welcome and introduce you to the SIG once again. And then we will look at some of the matters that arose within the previous minutes and how they've been addressed. I'll then go over the values that underpin our SIG, and this is from survey data that we have. And then after that is sort of the main part of today's work. Each of our 3 working groups will present who they are, what they've done over the past year, and what their plans are going forward next year. So we'll first hear from Megan Mercer-Lisa, who's the lead of the News and Membership Working Group. Then we'll hear from Laura Hartman, and she's in charge of the Events Working Group. And finally, Ludovic Vogel will speak about what's been happening in the Research Group. After that, we'll speak about the goals for the year, and then we'll have some final feedback. So throughout this presentation, we'll actually invite you to give feedback, so that it can be a bit more of a discussion and not only a presentation. Okay. Okay, I hope that everyone can see the slide that says welcome. Okay, so as I said before in our last meeting, the first meeting that we had, my need for health psychology special interest group really stemmed from going to international conferences like the British Psychological Society's Division for Health Psychology and the European Health Psychology Society. And I was quite impressed by how there was sort of this international body of psychologists just focusing on health. And I saw that we didn't have that here. So my need to engage with other people working in health psychology is really what spurred my interest in this. And so in October 2019, I approached PSYSSA, and I asked them if we could develop a special interest group under that umbrella organization. And in November 2019, they approved it. So PSYSSA actually had a health psychology and sport division many years ago, but they stopped because they didn't have enough numbers. And so throughout the beginning of 2020, we started advertising the SIG and inviting people to join us. And this culminated in our first meeting, which happened on the 7th of August last year. And so we're less than a year away from our last meeting. So everything that we're going to speak about now is sort of done in that time frame, sort of less than a year. Okay. So now I'm just going to go through some of the matters that arose during our previous meeting and discuss sort of what the outcomes were of them. So someone mentioned, or quite a few people in our last meeting mentioned, that we need to extend the special interest group to beyond only psychologists, right? Because health psychology is something that's interdisciplinary. We need to work with more than just psychologists. So I took this to PSYSSA, but this also wasn't agreed, and I understand the reason for not agreeing to it. So the idea is that PSYSSA is an umbrella for psychologists, and so letting other people who don't have sort of qualifications or aren't students or interested in psychology join the SIG wouldn't make sense. So with that being said, though, we have done quite a bit of collaboration with people who aren't psychologists So for example, if you look at our recent newsletter, we've got a urologist who contributed to it. So not having these people who are not psychologists part of the SIG doesn't mean that we can't interact with them or can't collaborate with them. It just means that officially they aren't SIG members. Okay, so that's the first thing that came up in the last set of minutes. The next thing was that people asked for membership fee grace. So not to pay membership for the division for the first year. And so that's fine. PSYSSA's agreed to that. Right now, we are a special interest group, but when we become 50 members or more, we need to become a division. And at that point only will our members be paying a membership fee, right? The next issue was that someone suggested, or quite a few people suggested, that we use social media to help our group to sort of put it out there. And so we have done that, and Megan will discuss that some more in her presentation later. And then Lynn Hendricks from the Division of Research Methods, she commented that fluctuating membership is actually a big problem within quite a few of the divisions. And so we have that same issue within our group. But I think that what we need to do is we need to focus on retaining membership, and we can have a discussion about this, and also growing new membership. We also need to be cognizant that there are many students who are part of this group, and sometimes they can contribute their time and sometimes they can't. You know, this isn't a join for life kind of club. So we need to be okay when people leave and say that they can't help anymore. Right, so that's fine. The next two issues have to do with research, and so Ludovic will speak to this. The first one was that it was pointed out that we should develop an article to be published in the South African Journal of Psychology about the importance of having a health psychology SIG at the moment. And so Ludovic will speak about that. He will also speak about doing research at an institutional level about health psychology and what's offered at the different universities. And then finally, at the end of our last meeting, it was recommended that we develop working groups within the broader body. And so we've done this. We've developed 3 working groups, events, the newsletter and membership, and research. And so if we look at everything that's been done in the past year, this is just a bit of an overview. We've achieved quite a few of the goals that we set out to do. There's one goal that we didn't achieve this year, and that was developing a database of health psychology researchers in South Africa, and sort of have this available on the PSYSSA website also. So so that is a sort of outline of what's been happening within the SIG. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to ask, are there any questions or comments based on our last meeting and what we've done since then? If there is, please put your hand up.
Rizwana, I have a question.
Yes, Sasha.
My question is about the affiliation with PSYSSA. Are there benefits associated with being part of PSYSSA, or would that be the same as if this group constituted itself as a separate organization?
Yeah, Ashraf, I've actually thought quite a bit about this issue. And we do get quite a bit of support behind the scenes from PSYSSA in setting things up and sort of giving us some sort of platform within their broader organization also. So I feel that, you know, we wouldn't have the members that we have now also if it wasn't for PSYSSA.
Fine, I understand that. I'm also cognizant of the hefty fees that PSYSSA charges and whether that would be a disincentive to people if they're only interested in health psychology.
Yeah. Maybe we table this and see if anyone else has any comments. How does the rest of the group feel about it? Do you feel that, you know, staying within PSYSSA has its benefits, or, you know, that maybe it should be independent? Not all at once now. Okay. Ashraf, maybe this is something that I think people aren't really responding to it, and maybe we can, within our working groups, ask the leads to talk about it among the working groups and see what else happens. And then we also can invite everyone to email some feedback or their thoughts on this and take this up. Is that okay, Ashraf?
Yep. All good.
Yeah, let's get feedback from everyone if we can. Maybe we could even do a survey on that. So maybe I'll take a note and I'll send out an email about this. Okay. So that's the first bit of business done already. Okay. So next I would like to speak about our values. And so when we started out, we know that any organization or any individual, any group of people working together, you actually need to be cognizant of what your values are. And so very early on in the life of the SIG, we decided that we need to decide what our values are and work from there. And so for this, we actually had a social media initiative where we invited people to complete a survey online. And the survey was quite simple. We asked them to list 3 values that they think should underpin the PSYSSA Health Psychology SIG. And it was open-ended, so you just typed in your answers, and we got responses from about 12 participants, and they shared what they thought the values should be. And you can see that over here, I've got a word cloud, and this word cloud sort of gives us some of the responses that came out. And obviously health seemed to be the biggest word. Everyone seemed to be using that quite a bit. But you can see that things like collaboration and respect were quite important. And so after we received all the results from the survey, the leads of the different working groups and I worked together to look at what were the most prominent values and how do we go about defining those values. And we came up with 5 values that we think would be quite beneficial to the SIG and how we interact with one another. So the first one is respect, and this goes without saying that we need to have respect for everyone within the SIG and everyone that we engage with beyond the SIG also, especially when relating to the SIG. We also need to look at collaboration. And for us, collaboration is working together towards a common goal. And that goal is really growing this field within our local context. In addition to collaboration, or sort of working with collaboration, it's fostering an environment where that is quite supportive and not competitive. So that's something we find quite important, or that seemed to come out quite a bit. Our third value is diversity. And this means that we recognize and we include and we respect our differences. And that we also see that our unique differences and unique contributions are actually what add value to our SIG. So diversity is very much encouraged and very much accepted. The next one is growth. We'd all like to see the SIG grow. So we'd like to see health psychology as a discipline in South Africa grow. We'd also like to see this specific SIG grow. So we'd like to see more members in the SIG, and we'd also like to see some more contributions or outputs from this group. And then finally, also another part of growth that's really important is fostering professional growth. And I find that we have quite a few young researchers, psychologists within this group. And we need to create an area or some sort of space where they grow as professionals. And then our last value, which came up quite a bit, was integrity. And again, this is just that we need to be consistent. We need to strive for ethical and moral principles consistently in everything that we do. And so these are our values. And yeah, I mean, are there any comments or any feedback on this? Anything you would like to add? You can raise your hand or just jump in if you have a comment. Anyone? Anyone? Okay.
So, Rizwana, I completely agree with all of this. I think it's great. There are issues about redress and people from historically disadvantaged, oppressed communities, etc. Is that covered under diversity?
Well, I guess it has to do maybe with collaboration and collaboration more. Working with people in those.
Okay. That's fine. I'm just thinking in terms of the commitment of this group to social justice and working with communities to foster growth, development. Um, I mean, health is a thing that is unequally distributed in society. Poor people are more sick than rich people, or they
Yeah.
have different kinds of illnesses. So I would just like that to be acknowledged somewhere. And if it's under diversity, that's fine.
Okay. So what we can do is we can look at these values again, and then we can see where we include it. If not, we can add it as a new value. Is that fine, Ashraf?
Yeah, that's fine.
I've made a note of it. So we'll speak to you about that also. Okay, so I'm taking notes, and again, after this meeting, I'll send out the minutes of this meeting and the way forward. I did that after the last meeting, so everyone should have those minutes already. Okay, are there any other people with questions or comments, or maybe you want to support Prof. Kaji in what he's recommending? Okay.
Nobody supports me. What a pity.
We all support you.
Walking.
Yes, absolutely supportive of that. And just a comment from my side. Hello, Rizwana. Hello, everyone. And well done on your recent newsletter. It was really well put together and very interesting pieces. And completely agree with these values. And thank you for the way in which you came about establishing these values. And I think that they're important and are a good representation of how the members feel as well.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Okay, so now we get to the most important stuff where you don't have to listen to me. We're going to look at the feedback from our different working groups. And first, we're going to have Megan, who's going to give us some feedback on the news and membership working group. Megan, I'm going to stop sharing, and then you can, hi, Wileen, we'll send it to you. And then you can share yours.
Okay, can you see me? Is my camera being fine?
Yeah, your camera is being fine. Okay, I'm going to switch myself off, and then it's up to you.
Okay, perfect. Just going to put my slides on quickly. Oh no. Sorry guys, just give me a second. My slides are being a bit difficult.
We can see it, Megan.
Oh, okay, perfect. I was just wondering. Okay, cool. Okay, guys. So as Rizwana introduced me, my name is Megan Mosalisa. I am the lead for the News and Membership SIG, the Special Interest Group. So I'm just going to be discussing a few things about our group. Or maybe just start with a little bit of background about myself. I am currently in my second year of my research masters, and I am focusing on women's health. So just a few things that I'll be going through with you guys, with everyone today. The first, I'll be introducing my team. The second section will be just discussing the responsibilities of the news membership SIG. The third section will discuss the accomplishments that we have and everything that we have done so far in the past year, so, from starting last year in October. I think it was October. And then the fourth section will be just discussing our goals for the next year or so. Okay, so the first section, the team. So this team, the news and membership team, is made up of 4 women, myself, Nikita Kushla, who is a second year research master student as well. She's focusing in psychology. She has a focus in social psychology, and she is further focusing on stereotyping and intergroup context. Then we have Corinne Crawford, who is a registered counselor and psychometrist. She also provides counseling for grief, pregnancy loss, and trauma. The fourth and final group member is Michelle Andy Patton. She serves as the Deputy Dean, specifically within research, and she provides she works within the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences at UWC, and her research commitment is to social justice, social change, and transformation. So that's just a little bit of background of all the members in my team. The second section will be I'll just be discussing a few main responsibilities of the news membership group. So, simple question, what do we do? Our main focus is on running the social media pages for the Health SIG. We've established a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages in the last year as the SIG startup. We also have started 2 specific news outlets, the newsletter and the bi-weekly updates. I'll be discussing that in detail as in the other 2 sections. And then we've also been very busy with collaborating with other authors, with other academics, and this is within our newsletters and with our bi-weekly updates as well. So this is just a bit of background into the responsibilities that we have in news and membership. Okay. So, like I said, there are 3 main news outlets that we have started. The first is our newsletter. Now, Bronwyn also did speak a bit about this as well. Thank you for that segue. So we choose a topic every 4 months or so, and we discuss that topic. We invite different authors, members within research, members within different fields to write a specific piece, whatever piece they feel necessary, obviously under the umbrella of health psychology, to be put into this newsletter. So that's one of the ways that we choose to give out information. The second is our bi-weekly updates. So this more serves as a advertisement type of platform for the SIG. So if you want information about the SIG, the bi-weekly updates is normally where you will find most of the things that we will be doing. It's where our information regarding the newsletters is in our different topics for the month. It's also where there is information about what the other 2 SIGs, the research and the event SIG, are doing. And then we also put in published research. So if members of the broader members decide to send in their published work, that's also a place that we would then place their work. And then also conferences and events within the psychology field, we also advertise in the bi-weekly updates. Our social media platforms, like I said, it's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that is also just specifically for the SIG. Anything that is to do with the SIG, any adverts that we have or any events that are up and coming will be posted on the social media pages as well. Okay, So then going to the next slide. Okay. So the next slide, I will be talking about our accomplishments. We have done quite a few things thus far. I'm very proud of our group. We have sent out 3 newsletters in total in the past year. The first newsletter was last year, I think it was in October, that was on breast cancer. The second newsletter was at the beginning of this year and it focused on COVID-19. And then the third and final newsletter was today. And that was focusing on men's health. And then the fourth newsletter, which is a ballpark, is probably going to be put out in October. You guys are the first people to hear this now. But that will be focusing on women's health. And we would love to open this or put this out as an invitation now already to anyone who would like to write an article, obviously focusing on health psychology within the health psychology field, and write something about women's health. We would love to be able to feature it in our newsletter. And then the second accomplishment, or the second section of accomplishments that we've done, our bi-weekly updates. We don't necessarily send it out bi-weekly, but we send it out a lot more often than our newsletters. And again, this is the type of outlet that we use to invite publishers, invite researchers to involve themselves a bit more within the SIG, and also advertise different conferences and events that are happening throughout the year. And we only send both the newsletter and our bi-weekly updates via our mailing list. So if you would like to get these, you can just email myself or email Rizwana, and we would, with absolute happiness, put you on our mailing list. And then another accomplishment this year is collaboration. We've done a lot of collaboration with individuals from many different spheres within the psychology field, also within different disciplines throughout the medical field as well. And I was telling Rizwana, I think one of the skills that I've learned throughout this process is just emailing. I've had a massive fear of emailing, and now I've got the email down. So that is a definite skill that I have learned throughout this process. So that is one of the accomplishments that the whole team has learned as well. So then going into our goals for the next year. The first goal that we have is to grow our social media page. And I think you will see there's a theme throughout all of these goals, and it's a theme of growth with our social media pages, with our newsletters, and also with our collaboration efforts. Growth is just a large thing that we would like to have more of within the News and Membership SIG. So with our social media pages, we want to grow our social media presence. We would love to have more people following our social media pages. We'd like to have more things happening on our social media pages. I have the live talks and interviews, so having people or sending out an invitation for anyone who would like to come and discuss a specific topic and having an interview with them, and just overall more frequent posting on the social media pages as well. The newsletters, we would love to be able to share it with a wider audience. We would also like to stick to having 4 newsletters every year, one every term. It is very difficult because our members obviously have other commitments, but this is something that I would really like, or that we would like to really strive for the next year. And then the third one is to collate information of interest. So this one I think is quite a big one for our SIG, because we are so responsible for giving out information. We would love to be able to have more voices involved with the topics that we choose for our newsletters. So far, it's just been the members of the News and Membership SIG that I've been choosing, as well as the members of the Health Psychology SIG overall that have been choosing the topics. But we would love to get input from more people as to what topics they feel are important for us to focus on, and then be able to have that as a newsletter topic. That would be amazing. And then also have more people just send in articles and be able to add those articles to the newsletter. That would be definitely amazing. So a lot more involvement is the main focus as well here, alongside growth. And then alongside growth and involvement comes collaboration, of course. So one point that I think that the News and Membership Group feels very strongly about is having student participation. So we would love to work and collaborate with psychology societies, whether it is, well, the details of that we are not sure about yet, but we would love to be able to have the opportunity to work with other psychology societies and get our word out and get our SIG out to other students. That would be great. And then obviously collabing with the events and research working group that will just continue throughout the next year. And then interdisciplinary collaboration, I think that Rizwana did touch on this a bit. It's very important for our News and Membership Group to be doing things like this because, like I said, it is the outlet that a lot of people see and that a lot of people get their first idea of the SIG is through the News and Membership Group, through our social media pages, through our newsletters and our bi-weekly updates. So it is important for us to be giving different points of view, whether it is medical, whether it is psychological. It's very important. And I think that with our men's health newsletter that we sent out this morning, it was really good because we had articles from doctors and we had articles from patients. So that type of collaboration is a very important thing that we would like to put and do within the future. Thank you everyone for listening. I'm hoping that everyone enjoyed it. Those are just our social media pages that we have there. The first is the Facebook page. The second is our Instagram page. And then the third is our Twitter page. And it'd be lovely if you guys could go and follow us. If you would also like to be added to the mailing list, I think that Rizwana will be giving our email addresses. You can just email me or email Rizwana and we would happily add you to our mailing list. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Geez, you guys have done so much work. And I know that everyone sees the updates and they see the newsletters, the 3 newsletters that you put out. But what they don't really see is all the emails that go out. So we spend quite a bit of time hounding people and asking them to write something for our newsletter and to contribute. So there's a lot of work that you don't actually see in the finished product. So I want to just thank you for that. We're going to open for questions after we've had all 3 presentations. So any questions or comments, just hold them, and after we've done all 3 presentations, we'll deal with those. I hope that's okay with everyone. Okay. Megan, you can stop sharing your slides now. And then the next person who is going to talk to us about their group is Laura Hartman, and she's in charge of the events group, and she'll be telling you a little bit more about what they've been up to in the past year. Laura, you can share your slides.
Hello, everyone. I will just have to ask you to excuse the light on my end. Unfortunately, with the winter weather, the light is coming and going quite frequently. Okay, is everyone able to see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So hello again, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. To introduce myself, my name is Laura Hartman. Like Megan, I'm also currently doing my master's, and I'm also currently doing my master's in women's health. I serve on the SIG as the events working group lead. Although at the moment, the title of the group should probably be more like the podcasts working group, but I'll explain a little bit more about that now. So at present, the events working group consists of myself, Shante Oudendal, and our newest member who joined us this week, Ashreen Rathilal. We have also previously received support from Marius Absalom, Charlotte Masiti, and Aratzira Ledzo. We are still looking to grow our team a little bit more. So as I explain what we've been doing, if that sounds interesting to any of you, please feel free to contact me via email. And like Megan said, our emails will be shown again later on in the meeting. So my email address is here, but it will be shown again. So the podcast, when the SIG was first conceptualized and when the events working group was first formed, we had hoped to plan and organize several events. But as with most things, this idea was sort of thrown out after facing several pandemic and lockdown related complications. So we then toyed with the idea of a radio station slot, but then this also proved to be too complicated to do. So instead, we redirected our focus to the digital space and decided to start a podcast. So the PSYSSA Health Psychology Special Interest Group podcast is based on the PSYSSA website. And at the moment, it is being recorded mainly in interview format. So far, we found that this is the best format to spotlight a single guest because each of our podcasts have featured a single guest, but hopefully we'll be able to branch out to include different formats and potentially even multiple guests in the future. We've spoken to a number of people about their work on topics related to health psychology, and so far the podcasts have followed the themes that we set out for this year as the wider working group leads collective. And this has included women's health, TB research, health workers, and our latest theme for this month, men's health. And like Megan mentioned, the next theme, women's health, will be launching in September, October time. So the episodes we've done so far, we've spoken to Claudia Swinney about her research on reasons for delaying treatment seeking for breast cancer. We've spoken to Zamafiso Sibande on her research on fatigue in women with endometriosis. We've spoken to Dr. Graham Hodinat on his work in TB treatment adherence. We then did a series for our healthcare worker theme where we spoke to 3 different healthcare workers, 2 nurses, Emily Shuttleworth-White, who is currently doing her nursing internship, and Vanessa van Wyk, an established nurse working in the United Kingdom, as well as Carla Pelferman, who is a specialist pediatric dietitian also working in the United Kingdom. And we spoke to them on their experiences working on the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic. And those were all very interesting conversations, especially to see where their experiences differed and where their experiences were the same, particularly considering they were working in a number of different contexts in different jobs. We recently published our latest episode, and this is where we spoke to Dr. Adam Fakhreddine about his work in mental health care. He is a psychiatrist, and the main focus of our conversation was about his perceptions of the connection between masculinity and gender norms and men's mental health. So that was a very interesting episode. So if you're interested in checking that out, or any of the other podcasts, all of the podcasts can be found on the PSYSSA Health Psychology Special Interest Group page. If you or anyone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast and to share your work related to health psychology, or even just speak about a topic within health psychology that you're interested about or knowledgeable on, please get in touch with us. So then what's next? We have quite a few goals for where we want to go, or ideas about what we want to do next. We are hoping to increase the number of podcasts that we put out and give more people the platform to share their experiences and their expertise. We would like to extend this opportunity as far as possible and give people the platform to speak. But one idea we had in particular would be a focus on young researchers. So perhaps one idea we had was perhaps starting a series where we speak to a number of either current or recently graduated master's students, speaking about their research, so what their master's research entailed and where they'd like to go next, and how their experience in health psychology research has been so far. We would also like to look into hosting the podcast on other platforms. At present, like I said, it is just on the PSYSSA website, but we're hoping to look into other platforms to host the podcast on as well, so that more people will be able to find the podcast and listen to it. It might also then be able to give us the opportunity to get some more insights on how the podcast is doing, so how well it performs, what our listenership is like. And we're also hoping to collaborate with Rizwana on a potential health psychology symposium in the future, so leaning more into the event side of our working group in the future. And we're excited to do this now, especially as our group continues to grow, so we have more people on board to make these goals happen. So all in all, I'm really proud of what we've managed to achieve so far. Speaking for both myself and for my team, when we started the podcast, we really didn't have any idea how to start something like this, how to set it up, how to record it, how to run it, what to focus on. And although I may be somewhat biased, I do think we've managed to create some really good content. From my own perspective, this opportunity has given me a chance to have so many fascinating conversations with people in a number of different spheres and on a number of different topics as well, some of which I don't think I would have naturally had a conversation about. So that's been a really rewarding experience for me. It's helped me to grow my knowledge significantly. I've also learned a lot about managing a team and managing multiple responsibilities at once. That definitely needed some work, so I'm very grateful for that opportunity to grow that skill. I'm also really enjoying the collaborative approach we've managed to create, both in my working group and in the wider SIG as well, and I'm really looking forward to what comes next.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks for that presentation. And again, you guys have been doing so much. I mean, 7 podcasts this year. And I know that some of them have been quite long also. I've really enjoyed listening to all those podcasts. And I hope that everyone else takes time and listens to them. I think we're going to hand over to Ludovic now, and then we can have a discussion afterwards. Ludovic, are you ready?
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm also a second-year master's student working under Rizwana's supervision, also coincidentally in women's health. And I just want to share some thoughts on what we as a research group has been doing in the past year. Let me just set up the slides. All right, are the slides visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so these are just the quick points that I want to cover. Just our quick vision and mission that we operate on, our contributing members, some of the goals that we spoke about earlier in the meeting, and then our first research paper, our second paper, and then upcoming research that we want to conduct. So our vision statement that the research group operates on is the SIG aims to promote the presence and growth of health psych in the South African healthcare landscape. And our mission statement to support this is, in order to promote the growth of health psych, the research SIG focuses on producing relevant research in the field of health psych in South Africa. And this is in the form of research articles, editorial pieces, and conference proceedings, just to name a few of the outputs that we can utilize. So to achieve this goal, we've got a very diverse group of members contributing. As you can see, we range in experience level from professor to master student and doctoral student in between, which I have found very beneficial. Building on what the other 2 leaders also spoke about, what they've learned is from my group, just being exposed to the different levels of experience in research has been so valuable in building my own skill set in the research space. So I've been very grateful for that. And as a contributing group of members, we've been able to work on our first research paper, which is what was brought up in the previous meeting as a focus point to see where health psych stands in South Africa. So we focused on health psych as a discipline and how it's been viewed worldwide, and the difference between how the discipline operates in developed countries versus in the South African context. And what we found is in South Africa, the health psych still remains a broad umbrella term under which psychologists and healthcare professionals conduct research. And that health psychology is then specifically concerned with the biological, social, contextual, and structural drivers of health and the illness. And to support this, we thought it important to place this within the South African context and the role of the Health Psychology Society in achieving this, where a large group of the population face multiple co-occurring epidemics like HIV/AIDS, TB, and the latest COVID-19. So through this paper, we describe the paradigmatic traditions and theoretical models that inform the discipline, and then we also argue why health psychology should be prioritized again and recommend future directions for how this can take place. Then building on this, we undertook a second paper, which is assessing the utilization of current health psychology theories in the South African samples. And we've written up the protocol to perform a systematic review. As you can see, we once again focusing on the development of health psychology theories in general and how the formulation of these theories in high resource settings might differ from its implementation in a low-income country like South Africa. And with this paper, we aim to provide documentation on the use of health psychology models and theories in our country, also to determine if the models were adapted to the cultural setting in which they were employed, and lastly, to evaluate the goodness of fit for the models used in these studies. So with this paper, I feel a broad aim or even dream would be for the paper to provide a broad base for health psychology research in our country in the future and to inform those researchers aiming to use these theories in our context. So hopefully that'll be helpful in that regard. Then another point mentioned in the previous AGM is doing research at a tertiary level to see how health psychology, the discipline of health psychology is presented at universities. So in our next paper, we'll be initiating communication with the heads of psychology departments at the tertiary institutions in our country to determine the extent of health psychology's inclusion in the teaching curriculum, and then to compare how health psych is presented at the different institutions. I think this is also very important to see what the future of health psychology would be, and in terms of career opportunities developing in this field, I think this is a very important step in that regard. And then lastly, as Rizwana mentioned, we are collaborative SIG, so we are always looking for people to come and join the team and contribute in any way that they see fit. As we said, people can move in and out of the groups as their priorities shift within their own space, and as everything is voluntary, we would love people to contribute in any way that they can. So as mentioned, please feel free to email us there, either myself or Rizwana, if you're interested in contributing to future research projects. And that's everything from my side. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Ludovic. I'd like to thank all three presenters. They're all master students in our department, and they've done such a good job leading these different working groups. And I can see that each group has made quite a bit of strides during this past year. So, I mean, you can see that there were 7 podcasts, 3 newsletters, quite a few updates from everyone. And it's really wonderful that the research group have actually submitted 1 article to a journal already. And I think the second one is just being proofread and will be submitted soon. So within a year, and considering that you guys have so much other work on your plate also, it's amazing what you have done. And I'd also like to say that when we look at our principles again, or our values, that part of growth, I've seen quite a bit of growth within the members, within the leaders of these groups. So I usually meet with them every 2 weeks and we discuss what each group, we have a group meeting, what's going on in each group and what support they need and what they need to go forward. And so it's really wonderful seeing how they've developed over the past year or so. But I'd also like to acknowledge everyone else who's worked within these groups. And I think you've also seen that there are quite a few senior members who are part of the working groups and who do quite a bit to support our younger members. And so I want to thank them for providing that space and being quite supportive and motivating students. So thank you so much to everyone. And I'm going to open it up for questions now. So if you have any questions or any comments about the 3 working groups or any one of the working groups in particular, please feel free to put up your hand and speak. Okay. You can do so now. No hands. Ashraf, any comments? Bronwyn?
I don't have any comments. I think this is great work.
Okay, Bronwyn, anything? Any suggestions?
I think this has been a wonderful meeting and very well done to you and the team for putting this together. It's wonderful to see the progress that you've made over the past year and your very fine attention to detail, you know, to document for us what was previously suggested and what's been done and the way going forward. And I think that's very exciting and it's a lot of hard work. So well done to everyone involved. And yeah, I mean, this group has grown quite a bit, even since the last time I was able to join a call. And that's to just the quality of the work that everyone's doing and the importance of it. So that's just a comment from my side and excited to see what you will have to present to us next year as well. And good luck with everything.
Thank you, Bronwyn, and thank you for your contribution also. Kyle, I see you've made a comment in the chat. Would you like to read it or not? Okay, so Kyle says the work that everyone has done is extremely impressive over the last few months. So thank you for that, Kyle. So we've just got a couple more slides to go through. And so we've got an idea now of what each specific working group will be doing over the next year. And I think that what you saw is that there's a big focus on themes. So if you've got any theme that you would like to propose for next year, please do so. So we can do sort of the podcast and the newsletter and tie those in using specific themes. So please contribute. We're looking for more of that. We're also looking for more people to join the different working groups. We have no limit. We spoke about this earlier, you know, can a working group be too big? We have, because we want to be quite inclusive, we don't have a limit on how many people we want in each working group. The more, the better. But if we do see that one group has way too many and another group is struggling, we may recommend that you work in the other group, but the final decision will still be up to you. Ashraf, the podcasts are available on the PSYSSA website. We'll send you a link to that. So our goals for the next year, we've got 4 main goals. The first one is that we become a division within PSYSSA. So right now we're a special interest group. We have about 30 members, but to be a proper fully fledged division within PSYSSA, we need to be 50. And so our team will also embark on a membership drive this year so that we can become a division. The health psychology and sport division was a proper division before, so they weren't a special interest group. So that's one of our goals for the next year. Our next goal is to have a health psychology symposium. So the group has been very much affected by the fact that there hasn't been a PSYSSA conference last year or this year. Ideally, the SIG would have launched at the PSYSSA conference, and we would probably get more people to join us, and there'd be a visible presence at the conference, but we haven't had that. So what we'd like is that within the next year, if possible, we can have an in-person symposium. But if it's not possible, then something online, something where we have 2 days of health psychology research showcased for members of our group and beyond. And so if anyone has any suggestions for that, please contact us. And we are open to any suggestion. And so in relation to this, we really want to create a vibrant community of health psychology scholars. And so we really want people to engage with us. Please join a working group. If you have information about a conference that you think someone else may be interested in, send it to Megan so she can add it to the updates email. If there's if you've published an article on a health psychology related topic and you want to share it with the group, send it to Megan and she'll add it to the updates. We want to hear what you've been doing, and we're very happy to share everything that you've done with the group, because that's how we can create a community of health psychology scholars. And then the last thing that was sort of outstanding from last year is developing a database of health psychology researchers and their interests. And so this we'll try probably to do a survey, and you can include who you are, what your institution is, what you do, what your research interests are, and then also what you would like. So are you looking for people to collaborate on something? Are you looking for funding? What your needs are. And so we can tabulate this and put it on the PSYSSA website also. And those are our goals for the next year. And I think I just have a couple more slides. Yeah, do you guys have any questions or comments again? Probably not, since no one's really been speaking. But you can contact us, and those are our emails. It's myself, Rizwana, it's Megan, Laura, and Ludovic, and all our emails are there for you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, so I'd also just like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank the group leaders for all the work that they've done over the past year, and every member of every working group, because I know that a lot of work goes into developing the content that they've created over the past year. At PSYSSA, I'd like to thank Mohammed and Fatima, because they've done quite a bit behind the scenes to support us. And then also I'd like to thank everyone who's attended this meeting. So thank you for spending your time with us today. Okay. Lastly, I'd like to invite you to follow us on social media if you haven't already. We have a Facebook group, an Instagram page, and a Twitter also. So please follow us. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll leave it open if there are any last questions or comments before I close it. Okay. So again, thank you everyone for participating today. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.